first thing in the morning, you wake up, take a few puffs off your vape, and your whole body just feels heavy. Your nervous system is like,
it chills you out.
It's nice.
Yeah,
it's nice to calm you down.
and it just brings you into like a calm, feeling.
Today we're examining how an entire generation of South African teenagers became chemically dependent on a product that didn't exist in their schools 5 years ago. This is a forensic analysis of corporate addiction engineering and the government policy that failed to stop it. Walk into any South African high school bathroom during break time. The smell isn't cigarette smoke, it's watermelon, bubblegum, mango ice. These aren't food aromas. They're vaporized nicotine designed to look like candy and taste like fruit. In 2025, the University of Cape Town published the largest study of teen vaping behavior ever conducted in South Africa.
Recently, the results of a University of Cape Town Lung Institute survey shows that an increasing number of teens rely on vaping, amongst others, to cope with stress.
Researchers surveyed 25,000 students across 52 high schools. The numbers document a chemical dependency crisis that most adults don't know exists. 17% of all South African high school students currently use e-cigarettes. That's nearly 1 in every 5 teenagers. For grade 12 students specifically, the rate jumps to 30%. In some schools, the rate reaches 46%, almost half the senior class. These aren't kids experimenting occasionally. 47% of teen vapers take their first puff within 1 hour of waking up, before breakfast, before school, before their brain has fully activated for the day. They need nicotine. Over 60% show high clinical dependence according to standard addiction assessment criteria. This dependency didn't develop by accident. It was engineered through product design, strategic placement, and chemical formulation. The vaping industry created these addiction patterns deliberately because addiction is the business model. The South African e-cigarette market is projected to reach 3.85 billion rand in 2025. That revenue comes almost entirely from repeat purchases. A customer who buys one vape and never buys another is worthless to the industry. A customer who buys 3 vapes per week for years is the target demographic. Teenagers represent the ideal customer base for any addiction product. Their brains are still developing, which makes them more susceptible to chemical dependency. They have decades of purchasing ahead of them, and they're easier to target than adults because their decision-making processes aren't fully mature. The industry understands this completely. The evidence is visible in every Sposa shop and corner store near a South African school. 68% of small retail outlets within walking distance of schools place vaping products exactly at children's eye level. Not on the top shelf where cigarettes traditionally sit. At the height where a 14-year-old's gaze naturally lands when approaching the counter. The products themselves are designed for youth appeal. Bright packaging, cartoon-style graphics, flavor names that reference candy and desserts. The nicotine inside these devices isn't natural tobacco-derived nicotine. It's synthetic nicotine salt, which delivers higher concentrations with less throat irritation. This allows new users to inhale massive doses without the harsh sensation that would make them cough or stop. A traditional cigarette contains approximately 10 to 12 milligrams of nicotine. A single disposable vape can contain the nicotine equivalent of 20 to 30 cigarettes. Teenagers are consuming this in a single day, sometimes in a single sitting, because the sweet flavors and smooth delivery system mask the actual drug dose they're receiving.
I posted a vape on my WhatsApp. Don't vape. I posted it. And then he was telling me about the risks of vaping. Né? And he put this perspective. He was like, vaping, how there's flavors, it's sweeter. And when you're smoking, it goes to your lungs. So what do you think is happening to that sugar that you can taste that goes to your lungs?
Sure.
So vaping is worse.
The business model requires constant consumption. Disposable vapes are designed to run out after a specific number of puffs, forcing repeat purchases. The devices can't be refilled. They must be thrown away and replaced. This generates continuous revenue while creating massive electronic waste, but the waste problem is external to the company's profit calculation. The industry markets these products as harm reduction tools for adult smokers trying to quit cigarettes. But the data shows the opposite happening. Most teen vapers in South Africa never smoked cigarettes. They started directly with vapes. The industry created new nicotine addicts rather than helping existing smokers quit. The government recognized the public health crisis developing. In March 2025, South Africa's National Treasury announced a new excise tax structure for vaping products. The tax was set at R3.18 per milliliter of vaping liquid. The stated goal was making these products financially inaccessible to youth. The logic seemed sound. Higher prices reduce youth consumption. This approach worked with cigarettes when taxes increased their cost. Apply the same strategy to vapes and the problem should decrease.
Are there no risks at all with regards to possible addiction to vaping?
Of course there are, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. I want to tell you a funny story, right? We talk about addiction as if some things are addictive and other things aren't. But we've spoken about sugar already, right? And nobody speaks about sugar addiction, right? But there is a real sugar addiction in our society. Talk to people and ask them if they can stop. People have Coca-Cola. Ask them if they can stop having Coca-Cola. They'll tell you must be mad, right? So, yes, it will be addictive if you have a need for that modality or for nicotine because you've got a dopamine deficiency and you're looking for a stimulant.
A typical disposable contains 2 milliliters of liquid. The tax on that volume is R6.36. That's essentially nothing when the retail price of the device is already 60 to 100 Rand. The industry designed around the tax before it even existed. Disposables are low volume by design. They contain just enough liquid to create dependency while minimizing the per unit tax burden. The government created a volume-based tax. The industry was already selling low-volume products. The tax collected revenue but changed nothing about youth access or consumption. This is the structural problem with regulating addiction products through taxation.
Now, vaping, once marketed as a safer alternative to smoking, has exploded in popularity among South African teens, with nearly 1 in 5 high school pupils now using e-cigarettes. But behind the fun flavours and sleek designing lines and a growing mental health crisis, with research showing that nicotine addiction in adolescents worsens depression, anxiety and even suicidal thoughts. Dr. Henderson, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Happy Freedom Day, firstly. Now, studies show teens who vape are more likely to develop depression and suicidal thoughts. Why is nicotine so damaging to adolescent brains?
Well, nicotine is a toxin, and we know that the brain is developing right up until the age of 25. So it has particularly toxic effects on specific areas of the brain. So we talk about predominantly the frontal lobe. So it has specific areas functioning, for example, in memory function, impulsivity, and concentration. So that limits functioning at the present, and then this causes impairments in neurodevelopment later on, so that impacting a teen's ability to be a functional young adult and an adult, because it affects memory, organizational functioning, and planning abilities.
The industry can redesign the product to minimize tax impact while maintaining the addictive component. Nicotine doesn't require large volumes to be effective. 2 milliliters of highly concentrated synthetic nicotine salt delivers the same dependency-forming dose as 10 milliliters of lower concentration liquid. The companies know exactly what they're doing. Internal documents from global vaping manufacturers, revealed through litigation in other countries, show deliberate youth targeting strategies. Market research on flavor preferences among minors. Product designs tested on underage focus groups.
Hey, I enjoy. Please change colors. Please change colors. Change colors, I enjoy. Change colors, I enjoy. Change colors.
South Africa imported this industry playbook without modification. The same products, the same placement strategies, the same flavor profiles designed to appeal to kids who think watermelon tastes better than tobacco. The economic incentives are overwhelming. A school with 1,000 students where 30% vape represents 300 repeat customers. If each customer spends 100 Rand per week on disposables, that single school generates 30,000 Rand in weekly revenue. 1.56 million Rand annually from one school. Multiply that across every high school in South Africa and the 3.85 billion Rand market projection becomes clear. This isn't a niche product. This is an industrial-scale addiction distribution network targeting children. The retailers aren't innocent participants. They know their customer base. The eye-level placement isn't accidental. The willingness to sell to visibly underage customers isn't oversight. It's profit-seeking behavior where the profit comes from hooking kids on nicotine. Current South African law prohibits selling vaping products to anyone under 18, but enforcement is essentially non-existent. Spaza shops don't check ID. Online retailers ship to residential addresses without age verification. The legal prohibition exists on paper while being completely ignored in practice. The industry depends on this enforcement gap. If the 18+ law was actually enforced, the market would collapse. The majority of consumption comes from minors. Remove that customer base and the billion-rand projections disappear.
Guys, for the people that smoke choof, that thing is really driving y'all insane, huh? Because my auntie once lost a choof. I don't know when it was, but it was like a long time ago. She lost a choof, and then when she lost the choof, she started asking everybody in the house, like, where's my vape? Like, where's my vape? Where's my vape? And bro, it's like, I don't know, she was losing her mind. And everybody was like, I don't know, but she ended up finding it. And when she found it, she was at peace. It's vape, dog.
The chemical dependency these products create will persist for decades. Nicotine addiction doesn't resolve itself when someone turns 18. The kids getting hooked at 14 will still be buying these products at 24, 34, 44. The lifetime customer value of a teenage addiction is measured in hundreds of thousands of rand. That's the business model. Create dependency early. Maintain it through product design that requires continuous repurchasing. Avoid meaningful regulation through product modifications that minimize tax impact. Operate in an enforcement vacuum where age restrictions are ignored. The public health consequences are only beginning to emerge. Long-term vaping health data doesn't exist yet because the products haven't been widely used long enough. The teenagers vaping today are the medical research subjects of tomorrow. We'll discover the chronic health effects by watching what happens to them over the next 20 to 30 years. The industry presents this as acceptable risk because vaping is less harmful than smoking cigarettes. But that comparison only makes sense for adult smokers switching from cigarettes to vapes. For teenagers who never smoked, the comparison is irrelevant. They went from zero nicotine consumption to heavy daily vaping. That's not harm reduction. That's harm creation.
Send this to someone that's always choofing. Always. You. Yes, you. Ajo, didn't you say you're gonna stop choofing, boy? And like, didn't you say you were not addictive? I swear you said you're not addicted, ne? Nah, I can stop anytime. Then stop, Joe. Stop now. I get you're not addicted. Stop now. Nah. I can stop when I want to. Why do you have to tell me? Yeah, man. You sound like a proper addict, boy. I swear you have every flavor, but mango, kiwi, strawberry, mint.
The products barely existed in South African schools in 2020. By 2025, they're everywhere. That's not organic spread. That's coordinated market capture. The 3.85 billion rand projection isn't a ceiling. It's a milestone. The industry will grow from here because the customer base keeps expanding. Every year, a new cohort of 14-year-olds becomes potential customers. Every year, the addiction spreads to younger grades. The structural incentives guarantee this continues. The retailers make money. The manufacturers make money. The distributors make money. The only losers are the kids who develop nicotine dependency and the public health system that will eventually treat the consequences. This is the autopsy. An entire generation targeted for chemical dependency through product design. A government tax policy defeated by low-volume disposables. A 3.85 billion rand industry built on teenage addiction. Legal, regulated, profitable, and completely unstoppable under current policy structures. The University of Cape Town study documented what's happening. But documentation doesn't stop it. The numbers will get worse before they get better. More schools, higher percentages, younger ages,